All right, Allyn, I am so excited to welcome you to the show today. How are you?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I can't wait to dive in and introduce you to my audience today and have them learn from you. So, before we dive into you and everything that you are all about and what you are doing in your world, could you just give us a little heads up about who you are? Like, where are you in the world? What do you do? Like, tell us about your kids, whatever you want to share, so we can get to
Yeah,
know you a little bit on a deeper level.
yeah, absolutely. My name is Allyn, which is strange because I am a woman and it's a boy's name, but it's spelled with a Y, so it makes it a little more feminine. And I live in Weston, Florida, which is very near Fort Lauderdale. So yes, we are close to the beach, and yes, our family really enjoys that. And speaking of family, I am married and I have two kids. My older child is my daughter Nina, and she's 9. And then our son Andrew is 6. And I am continually amazed at how much fun they have together and how they still kind of play like little puppies. Like they'll do rough and tumble and kind of get tangled up together. But then at the end of the day, they are always like sweet and lovey-dovey. So yeah, they're a whole lot of fun to be around and to get in the mix with as well. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that is like a super, super fun age. So currently I have a 13-year-old, a 16-year-old, and then I have a 30-year-old bonus son. So it's me and all my boys over here. So I do not have any girls other than my kitty cat. It's
oh,
just me and her rolling the household, or trying to roll the household over here, keeping these boys in alignment.
that
Keep
is
them
a
all
chore.
gathered.
Yeah.
Yeah, it totally is. And I live at the beach too. So do you guys spend a lot of time at the beach?
We do, and it's funny. We come from the Midwest, and so we also have experience and love lake beaches with
Mm.
cold water. And so we are the strange family that will go out to the beach on a cloudy, kind of drizzly day when it's, only in the 70s, and we'll have the whole place to ourselves
Yeah.
because most Floridians, they go to the beach when it's hot and sunny and, typically in the 80s. And we, if it's not a downpour, it's going to be a great beach day. So
Yeah.
we love getting out there really frequently. And that's also a thing that cracks me up about my kids. We are minimalist beach goers. We bring some towels and a bucket, and that's it. Like, I don't even bring a chair because we're just going to be digging in the sand and
Yeah.
splashing in the waves. And that works for us.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that so much. And it's so much easier, right? When you can manage
Yeah.
it easy versus having to like have this hand and this hand, and then you have the wagon that you're pulling behind you with all the
Yeah.
things. It gets to
Yeah.
be too
Oh, and
much.
snacks. We always have snacks, but
Always.
sometimes I just leave them in the car because we can just make an hour trip and then head home before lunch, but always the snacks.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Well, I would love to dive into a little bit about what you do. I found you on Instagram, and so just like connected with you on there, kind of going back and forth, and just love what you are doing and your message and everything that you are sharing, and thought it would be great value to add to the mamas that are listening to this podcast. So you are a parent coach, right?
Yes, I
Okay.
am.
So what does that mean for people that are like, what do you mean you're a parent coach?
I know it's kind of a new-ish thing. It's not entirely new, but it's new-ish.
Okay.
And I would describe what I do as a parent coach is I listen to whatever challenge a parent brings and I guide them through what I know about children and their development, what I know about the parenting relationship. And I use that knowledge to guide the parent into their solutions that are going to help them with their struggle. So it's not like a set script of do this or say this in this situation, because the situation is always changing. So it's really more about how can we help you reshape your relationship so that you have the foundation in any situation to be able to find your solution and find your way through it on your own. Because if I just keep giving a parent answers, they're going to keep coming back with the next question at the next
Right.
stage, at the next difficulty, because it's ongoing.
Yeah.
So rather than just giving answers for this moment in this situation, I really help them develop a foundation where they can find their answers through the whole evolution of the parenting journey. So
Yeah. That's
yeah.
amazing. So do you find is it typically a mother that comes to work with you, or is it a mother?
No.
It's
Yeah.
not? Okay. I'm
No,
wondering.
and I'm so glad you asked that because the general idea and the general trend and stereotypes is that mothers and women and mothers are more available, more invested, have more in time, and are just more connected in that role with their children. And it's absolutely true that dads are looking for that connection and they are looking to make the most of their relationship that they have. And I'm working with a dad right now that, he's even rearranged his whole work schedule and is making like lifestyle shifts so that he can be more available with his kids.
I love
He,
that.
he realizes that's really his priority. Like, yeah, he works, but more importantly, he wants to be the father that he wants to be. So,
I love
um,
that.
yeah, it was like really touching to have him reach out to me. I'm like, yes, let's do this.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. Do you find when mom or dad, so whoever's coming, or caregiver, whoever's coming to work with you, do you find that there is like one trigger or a thing that you're seeing most often that is like the biggest things that parents are struggling with, like whether it's like the emotional aspect or they're angry all the time or they're yelling or they're feeling like they're failing as a parent? Like, what are some things that you're finding are like the big things that I think a lot of moms that are probably listening will be like, that's me, that you kind of help them through when you're coaching?
Yeah, I think in general, a feeling of like guilt around how they're parenting currently is a factor that drives them to try and get some help.
Yeah.
And what's underneath that guilt could be very different. Some moms feel guilty about how much they're yelling at their kids. Other moms feel guilty because they're working and they're trying to find that balance between work and being a mom. Others are feeling guilty because they're always feeling confused and like they can't figure it out. They don't even know how to tell if they're being successful or not. And so I think it starts with a general sense of something's not working, something
Yeah.
isn't where I want it to be. And the way that kind of that gap, what that gap is, can be different for different people, but there's always some sort of gap of like, I know this could be better. I know I could be better. I want to do better
Yeah.
for my kids. And so how am I going to make that happen?
Yeah. If you would be open, I would love to hear, because one of the things that you said and one of the things that I struggle with, because I do have teenagers right now, and I hear a lot of moms talk about this, and I see you do a lot of this on Instagram, is that like you're constantly yelling or you're constantly feeling like you're angry. Would you mind, like, what are some things that you recommend or that you share to kind of help a parent feel less guilty or to release some of those triggers that maybe are having them yell, or some tips that you might have for that? Do you mind sharing?
No, not at all, because
Okay.
that is like the anger, the rage, the yelling and screaming. That's a sign that possibly several different things could be going on. And I think the first step that's really, really hard for adults today
Yeah.
is to just pause and say, I'm allowed to feel angry. Like we are so quick to notice that we're angry and then immediately feel regret about feeling angry. And that is what keeps that cycle going. If you can pause before feeling that regret and just say, I get to feel angry. I'm allowed to feel angry. There's a reason I'm feeling angry. That at first it can be scary because it's like you're giving more space for that anger to show up and be real. And when you let that anger show up and be real, then there's more space to learn from it and to get to what's underneath that anger. Otherwise, it's just going to come back and it's going to come back. It's kind of like an annoying neighbor. Like they're just going to keep knocking on the door and you've got to answer the door to get them to
Yeah.
stop knocking. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the first step, like answer the door. Your anger is there to tell you something. So see what's there, be willing to see what's there. And that alone can be really powerful. And I know that alone can be really scary. So I
Mm.
would say that's the first step. And then there's always more.
Yeah, I know. Cause I think that like definitely is one of my triggers of like, oh, I don't want to be that kind of mom. Like that guilt starts where, I'm here, I'm apologizing again, or, but I think it's also just showing your kids that like, you don't have to be perfect. No one is perfect and everyone's going to make mistakes. And it's just being like, hey, this is what happened. Let's talk about it. This is how I was feeling. And, see if you can move through it and move on.
Yeah. And if you're willing, I'm happy to go one layer deeper, because just saying, okay, I get to feel angry, that's just kind of scratching the surface. And then the next step is trying to figure out, why is this anger here? What is it trying to tell me? Because all emotions are bringing a message. All
Mm-hmm.
emotions are bringing some sort of information about your experience. And so anger is often bringing information about unmet needs
Mm-hmm.
or boundaries that are not being upheld. And so when you go into that flash of anger, I think for a lot of moms, it's actually chronically unmet needs that, I'm always operating at this level of stress. I am not able to relax. I have not had a chance to unwind. I have not been able to give myself that space to like come down from that stress level. So that's one thing. I think a lot of moms are just hovering at this really high level of stress. And so it does not take much to snap and to explode, because we're just right here at that level every day. And then on the other side, I imagine with teenagers, like when you're witnessing their behaviors and you're seeing the things that they're doing, a lot of times those behaviors are kind of butting up against what's important to you and your family values. And so, if you come home from a busy day of working hard and you see your teenager lounging on the couch, your brain might interpret that as, oh my gosh, you lazy bugger. Like, I've been working my tail off and you're just lounging around and now you're going to want me to get you a snack. I'm so angry. And so there's a lot of interpretation of those behaviors. And so it's like, oh, if I'm angry seeing my teenager laying on the couch, I get to ask myself, like, what value is being tested here? Like, I value hard work and I see my kid on the couch. It seems like they don't value hard work. So what can I do with that information?
Mm-hmm.
And in that example, I totally layered on a judgment and a
Yeah.
label, which is not helpful, but I just know that that's a lot of the familiar thoughts that might be going through a mom's head. So
Yeah.
when you notice that anger, what am I thinking? What is this behavior saying about what's important to me? And how can I start to get on the same page with that person over there? So
Yeah. Oh, that's really powerful. So, okay. So a mom, or I'll just say myself. So I have had this episode. I'm angry. I did not recognize I was angry. I just I call my alter personality a She-Hulk, because
yes.
that's like what I feel like. I'm like, I just turned into She-Hulk. Okay. I'm big and green and angry. And like, that's what I destroy things.
Yeah.
So, how do you, as a mom or as myself or any mom that is listening, so you've reached that boiling point and you like laid into them, you said all these things, you were angry, you yelled, whatever. You might have even made them cry, because let's be real, like it
Oh yeah.
happens. And then you feel so horrible. You feel heartbroken because you're like, I don't even know why I got angry. Like, really, that regret, I think, comes in instantly. So, I
Yes.
wanted to ask you, how do you, because I was looking on your Instagram and stuff, how do you actually restore trust and connection after you have done that? Because I love what you said about like those emotions and things like that. And I can go back and apologize, or, say I need a minute, or let's have some space here. But how do you recommend actually restoring that, like after a mom has like gone off the handle, gone off the deep end, and she's like, oh my God, I'm totally remorseful right now. But how do you rebuild that connection with your child to show them
Yeah.
that you love them and care about them and support them?
Yeah. There's definitely two prongs. There's
Okay.
multiple sides.
I love it. I love
Yeah. I
it.
would say at first, because that regret is real. And if you spend too much, if you're putting a lot of energy and spending a lot of time in that space of regret, you're almost digging your hole deeper and deeper. And
Yeah.
so to kind of get out of that hole, that is the process of self-forgiveness, which is
Mm,
so foreign to
yeah.
most of us today, especially moms, because it's almost like we want to use our mom guilt to just beat ourselves harder. And that's only bringing us down. And so being able to step into self-forgiveness, which basically is saying, I felt really angry and I was allowed to feel that way. I know I'm starting to learn that anger was coming from this place and these needs. And I'm in a process of learning how to express that anger in a different way without hurting myself or others. Just giving yourself that moment um, to to commit to yourself that you're in a process, that you're not wrong, you're not bad. This isn't forever. This is a place where you get to grow. That would be one really important step. And then specifically in terms of reconnecting with your child that was on the other side of your outburst, that may have had really strong reactions to your outburst. Yes, an apology, making repair is absolutely a critical component. And I will say that it doesn't have to happen right in the moment. Often it can't, because if you're still wound up, that's not going to be the time to be communicating. If your child is still kind of recovering and settling down, they need to have their space to do that too. So it might be later in the day, it might be the next day or the weekend when you have more space and just to chill and be together. It could be years later. If you are a parent with teenagers and you realize, like, for years, like, this has been a pattern that you're noticing and now you are starting to repair it, go for it. It can be years later. You can offer the repair, which sounds very similar to the self-forgiveness, that you're going to acknowledge, this is what I did. I am owning what I did. I turned into She-Hulk. I got really big and loud and scary. And I realized that that had an impact on you. I know that I get to be angry, and I'm going to work on handling my anger in a different way so that it's not affecting you. You are not responsible for my anger. I will be the one to take care of that. And so you're modeling, and I would say, like, in this repair process, you're taking ownership of your emotions. You're taking ownership of how you handle your emotions. And you're making a commitment that you're going to try and do it differently next time.
Yeah.
It's not a promise and it's not a guarantee, but it's a commitment that you're going to keep trying.
Yeah.
And so that in and of itself is helping your child see, I didn't make mom mad. I'm not the reason she's mad. She has her own experience that made her mad. And thank goodness she sees that this impacted me, because it didn't feel good.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's kind of like rebuilding that connection and just being authentic. Like, I'm not going to get it perfect a lot. This is probably going to happen again. And I'm going to keep trying that, instead of like going into She-Hulk for 5 minutes and laying it on big for like a solid 5 minutes, I might start and then I'll catch myself and, go outside and run around the block or something. That, little baby steps make a difference. And I think some people think, well, am I expecting my child to forgive me? And I don't think that's a fair expectation. I think with really little kids, when you make a repair, often a young child will say, oh, it's okay, mommy. Or like, they just like, oh, it doesn't faze me. It just, because it hasn't like sunk in that deep. But with an older child, they get to decide what they do with that repair. And if they don't seem receptive, that doesn't mean that you should stop trying, that you're going to keep offering and keep recommitting, and your continuation of that process will show that you're really committed to building that trust. And then it's a leap of faith that you're going to believe that that's going to be what rebuilds that bridge. And with teenagers, you may not know for a while that you rebuilt the bridge. They may not give you a signal that they're open to trust. And again, like, as the grown-up, as the mom, that's where your trust comes in too.
Yeah. I think it's also just everything that you're saying too, like, as a mom, with all the different things that we are doing too, it's very difficult to not try to control our kids and to control everything that they're doing and control their behavior and control everything. Obviously, I'm speaking from personal experience myself, but that trying not to control like who they're going to be, what they're going to do, like control the things like their emotions, how they're acting, how they're reacting, because ultimately, like, we have no control over that. And like, they are their own human being. Like, yes, we birthed them or we adopted them or we're their foster mom or however that happens, but like, they are a human being that is separate from us. And I think that's so hard to realize is like, yes, we can try and control, we can try and shape them, but ultimately, like, it is out of our control. And we can just do the best that we can do with what we have and the knowledge that we are learning all the time. Because I think as moms, like with this podcast, with everything we're doing, we're always learning. We're learning new ways, better ways to be a mom, to be a parent, to be a wife, to be a spouse, like all the different things. We're always learning, just like our kids are going through different seasons and changings, like so are we as a mom. And I just think that's so important to understand too, is like, you really don't have control. And so when you release that control and you have those open communication and the conversation, I just think it's such a better space and very difficult to do.
Yes.
But it's like, it just sounds magical, right? It just sounds magical. And I'm speaking from my heart, because it is, it's like, I have a major control issue with many areas of my life. And so, I know that things are better when I'm not always trying to control and
Yeah.
let each person be the person that they want to be versus, trying to be like, this is how I am. And this is how you have to be. It's like, no,
Yeah.
it's not.
It's really hard. And hearing you share all that, even something inside of me was like, what do you mean? I don't have any control. And it's not that you're just totally hands off the wheel, but the intention is different.
Yeah.
That if you can step back from an intention or a desire to control the other, that what goes in place of that is the trust and connection. And
Mhm.
so you're not just throwing your hands in the air and crossing your fingers. Like, that's not a parenting strategy.
Yeah.
But you're stepping back to give space for a relationship
Yeah.
foundation, that it's not about control, but through that connection and through that trust, that your children are going to be willing to be guided by you.
Yeah.
You're not forcing control, you're offering connection so that they receive that guidance on the other
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
And
And
what
so
I
it's really, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's like, I can imagine that easily for small children, because small children are wired for that connection. They depend on it. Their nervous system knows, you are my best bet at survival. I'm with you no matter what.
Yeah.
And in the teenage years, that is absolutely shifting to the opposite.
Yeah.
That's when they're playing around with, I don't need you in my life. I
Mhm.
am my own person. I am ready to fly the nest. And so it's that
Yeah.
back and forth. And so if you've got that connection and they have the willingness, then that's what leads to a grown child that says, I can't wait to get together for Thanksgiving. The grown-up child that sends a text out of the blue, hey, just wanted to let you know I was thinking of you.
Yeah.
That's the connection that lasts.
Yeah.
The control creates resistance and all sorts of other difficulties, but the connection is that stable foundation.
Yeah, it is. And that you were, yeah, definitely speaking to me, because I used to be a school teacher. And then when I had my children, I was able to work from home for many years. So we were together, like we were together all the time, like all the different classes, all the different things, like took them everywhere. And, we were like the buddies, and then the teenage phase. And not that it's a bad phase. It is not bad at all. You want your children to grow up, you want to see them, in flourish in whatever they are. It's so different, because it's exactly what you were saying, where, they are trying to figure out who they are. They don't need you as much. Like, their circle of friends is way more important than you think it is than you are right now, because they want to be doing with their friends. They're trying to figure out who they are. So they are separating from you, which feels like a breakup almost as a parent, because you're like, wait, but we used to be like tight. Now what is
Yes.
happening?
Yes.
So that is definitely, and my boys are incredible, and we do have a great relationship, but it's just so different than it
Yeah.
was when they were younger, because they don't show that they need me like as much, because they do want to be with their friends, and they do want to do these things, and they do want that separation from me. But there are those hints that it's like, but I still need you. Like,
Yeah.
I still need you. It's just in a different way. And I need to know that you're my safety net, so that when I do really need you or something happens, like, I know that you're there.
Yep. Yeah. I can only imagine that dance between, I'll give you your space and I'm still going to let you know that I'm present and
Yeah.
available.
Yeah.
That's a lot of sort of, I imagine it feels a bit one-sided to like send out those signals that I'm still in touch with what's going on. I'm still going to be connected to you. And a lot of those signals just get kind of dropped
Yeah.
or pushed to the side, but it matters because
Yeah.
I think what we see a lot with teenagers that are suffering, that, you know, are going through really big struggles and challenges, that there's a gap where the parents are not necessarily sending out those signals again and again and again. So then that teenager is really feeling lonely and they don't know how to send signals back. So
Yeah.
even if it seems one-sided, parents just keep putting those signals out
Yeah.
because they matter. They matter a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. I did want to ask you, because one of the things that I saw that you had written down too was how to have less fighting and more fun. And one of the things, like, so many times I'm like, I'm just not a fun mom. You know what I mean? When it's like you list all the things that, like, I'm doing air quotes for those of you listening on the podcast, but like you're watching this on YouTube, you can see this, but you know, all the things that we have to do. So like that invisible load that us
Oh, yeah.
mothers have, that no one else really understands, like what that actually is. And like our minds constantly going with like the check, the check, the check. Did I do all these things? Like the appointments, like the scheduling, like the Uber driving, like is everybody accounted for, the dinners, the meals, like all those things that are just there. I don't know how they showed up on my shoulder, but they're there, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't put them there, they're just there. But I would love to know about like how do you manage that? Like, yes, and you have younger kids, and it doesn't matter, I guess, or it probably does. Like, obviously, I know because I have teenagers now. But like, how do you have less fighting and more fun? Like, can you please explain that to us moms out there that are like raising their hand? Like, yes, please, more fun. Yes, please. What's that?
Yeah. Did you say this was going to be an extended episode? We're going to hang out for 3 hours on this one.
I did say that I'm trying to make them shorter, but see, I here I am. I didn't say it was going to be perfect.
No, it's a great question. And I'm so glad you asked that because so I have a background in early childhood education. So before I became a mom, like I loved hanging out and playing with toddlers and preschoolers. And then I had this newborn in my arms. And I remember thinking, holy geez, aren't I supposed to sing to you or like read a story or something? Like I have to connect with you. I have to play with you. And I was just looking at this little newborn, like, I'm sorry, you got the sucky mama. You know, and that was in the first month. So like nothing that you're thinking or feeling in the first month is reality. But fast forward, you know, now they're 6 and 9, and I feel like they're such big kids. And like, I don't know how to play with big kids. But it doesn't take anything special. Like you do not need to be an improv comedy. You do not need to be like a master joke teller. Really, it just kind of means going with whatever your kids are putting out. And so, unfortunately, right now, my 6-year-old is all about poop head fart pants. And I'm kind of over it. But when he like walks in and says, hey, poopy head, then I turn around and say, oh, I'm going to spray poop on you. So just like go with it. Like, do I like being called poop head fart pants? No, I don't like it. But that's where he is right now. And so, I have options. I could turn around and say, that's so disrespectful. Don't call your mommy poop head fart pants. That's not okay. Go to your room. And that's not going to get us anywhere. Or I could just say, okay, I'm a poop head, so I'm going to spray you with poop right now. And like, layer kisses on him. And that's going to get him laughing. And I'm going to trust that, you know, hopefully he's not calling his teacher Mrs. Poophead, and he's not, you know, it's for me because I'm his mom. I can handle it. So yeah, it kind of just notice where your kids are and kind of what is funny with them. That can be a starting point, and just try to roll with it. And it's like those little moments where it's not, you know, here's 30 minutes, we're going to play a board game and we're having fun now. Look at us, we're having fun. It can be just those little interactions. And then also trying to make a commitment to having those bigger moments where, okay, you know what? Yeah, let's go ahead and play a round of Uno. You know, dinner's on the stove. It can wait 5 more minutes. Okay, I'll play a round of Uno with you. So that's kind of like the medium. And then, yeah, just choosing to commit to like playtime or playfulness. And it's hard because we're the adults, we're the moms, we take care of things, we are responsible for things. And we can help ourselves feel better by just lightening up a little bit, feeling a little bit more playful. And our kids really respond to that too. So I would say like 3 big categories of just how to be a little more playful. With the younger kids, it's pretty easy. If you just pretend to be an animal, they're going to latch on and have fun with that. So kids under 7, be an animal. Like 7 to 12, that's a little bit like goofier, maybe edgier, like follow their lead. And so like my daughter's 9, she's rolling her eyes all the time. And so if she does it to me, I'm like, okay, and a little bit of exaggeration. So kind of take where they are and exaggerate a little bit to let them know that you see them. And then like the 12 and older, oh my gosh, I think it's almost like slapstick. If you can like be 3 Stooges in how you approach things, they're going to like maybe feel embarrassed, but they're still going to laugh. And so if you can kind of just be goofy and not embarrass them in front of their friends, just when you guys are at home, just like let yourself be goofy and let them laugh at you and let that be okay.
Yeah, I know.
And there might be people thinking, no way, I'm not letting my kids laugh at me. And that's okay. You don't have to like be the person that lets your kids laugh at you, but find, even if you just show interest, like, oh, you're buried in your phone right now. What's that about? Just showing an interest in what they're interested in counts as playfulness.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, thank you for sharing that. So is there anything, because you shared so much great information, is there anything that we haven't talked about or you haven't shared that you feel like is one more message that you want to put out there for the moms that are listening?
Yeah, I think a big part of our modern, fast-paced, crazy culture today is that we are thinking of everything. We want to remember everything. We're going to go do the things. And all of that just pulls us out of the moment and the fact that we are humans in a body and that body gauges our experience in the world. And so I have a gift for our listeners if they're interested. It's my #1 tool for moms to keep cool. And it really is building awareness of your body and what you're feeling in your body so that you can use your body as a better predictor of those moments that we talked about at the beginning, of when you snap, when you lose your cool, when you flip out, so that it doesn't like jump out of nowhere or like hit you in the face, that you can kind of see it coming and then you have a chance to do something about it. So I think our world is very driven by our thinking and our creativity and like all of our brain processes, but our bodies have so much information that when we can tune into that information, it's going to help us with all the rest of the stuff of life. So,
Oh, I love that. Thank you. I can't wait to like grab that myself. I'll make sure if you send it to me, I'll make sure it's in the show notes. So it's easy for everyone to link onto and to find. So yeah, that sounds cool. And my last question, this is what I ask every single podcast guest, because we as women, especially do not celebrate ourselves enough, which you were, talking about a little bit there too, or don't take that time for ourselves or reflection of ourselves. So I would love to know, what is something that you love about yourself right now, Allyn?
Oh, that's a great question.
Thank
And
you.
I've got a great answer. One thing that I'm really good at is kind of like jumping into some chaos and like figuring it out and making, to use the cliche, making lemonade out of lemons. But really, like I can go into hard things and come out with a success. And I'm in a little bit of that right now. And it's like, it's a little sticky feeling, but I know I'm trusting that I've got the resources, I've got the capability to keep going and to turn it into positive. So that happens a lot with the kids too, where I'm just like in the middle of it and I'm like, is this really happening right now? Is this really like me? Like if people saw me right now and know that I'm a parent coach, they'd be like, what?
Yeah.
And I know I can keep going and I know that we can like make it a positive on the other side. So
Awesome. Congratulations. I'm
Thank
proud. I love
you.
that you love that about yourself. So good job recognizing that.
Thank you.
How can people find you? Because I'm sure they're going to be very curious, like, how can I find this amazing parent coach? So how would you recommend they look you up?
Come on over to Instagram. You can find me at child_connection.
Okay.
And on Instagram, I talk about a lot about stress. There's so much stress in parenting. And yeah, those emotions, because like we said, anger is just one emotion. All of our emotions are messengers. And yeah, I love hanging out in the DMs and
Cool.
connecting with moms and other professionals that are working with children too. So yeah,
Awesome.
come on over, hang out
Cool.
on Instagram. That's where we met. It's a great place to be.
Yeah, it is. I will make sure I have that in the show notes so that everybody can find you. So thank you so much, Allyn, for being on the podcast today.
Thank you, Melissa. This was great.
Yeah. Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.